Guess who's back on her bed? Yes, it's me. I wanted to be back on my bed. Here we are today. Sorry, if you're new here, my name is Kylie. Welcome to the channel. Glad to have ya. So today, as you saw by the title, is part 2 to reacting to your unpopular opinions. I just got so many of them that I needed to make a part 2 to that first video. Because if you weren't aware, or if you're new, I do put polls on my community tab, but I also put them on my Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, by the way, if you want to interact, answer some questions, answer some polls. But we got a lot. We got a lot on YouTube, we got a lot on Instagram. Today I'm covering the ones that I got on Instagram. So for yet another laid back video, I don't have a script, I'm pumped, let's get into it. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the second best Halloween. Okay, you're entitled to your wrong opinion. I think the gatekeeping in the horror community is ridiculous and getting toxic. Yeah, I don't really experience it that much. I think I mentioned in one of my last videos that yeah, I get comments sometimes from like misogynistic men, but for the most part, I don't really deal with a lot of that because I feel like if anything, me as a film student and someone that's like studied this and whatnot, I feel like I would kind of be in that group that would be gatekeeping, but I'm not about that. People don't usually try to gatekeep me is what I'm trying to say. Friday the 13th part 1 is pretty great and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot wasn't scary at all. You're weird for that. I would say that the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a lot better than the first Friday the 13th movie. Part 1 of Friday the 13th, I don't know, I kind of can't stand that movie. And I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot was really, really well done. Sleepaway Camp just isn't that great. The sequel is better. I haven't seen the sequel. Children's horror can handle certain subjects more maturely and brilliantly than adult horror. That's true. I'm trying to think though, what's good children's horror? Oh, I know. I would say Corpse Bride. That, oh, amazing, gorgeous movie. House of a Thousand Corpses is better than Devil's Rejects. I haven't seen either of those. I haven't seen House of a Thousand Corpses. I haven't seen The Devil's Rejects, although I have considered making reaction videos to them because I just don't like Rob Zombie, so I have very visceral, strong reactions and you guys usually think it's funny. Black Christmas 1974 is boring AF. I kind of agree. I think it's a decent movie. I think that the story is pretty well done. I think a lot of it could have like been trimmed down. The pacing is a little bit grating, but yeah, I think just the fact that it's kind of outdated at this point and it's kind of been outdone by a lot of other movies. And I don't mean in the way that like, you know, new movies have a lot of jump scares and they're more intense and fast and whatever. I don't mean like that. I just feel like stories of that particular caliber, stories that are framed in such of the way that Black Christmas was, there are better movies out there. Yeah, I also get a little bit bored by Black Christmas. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is better than the first in my opinion. Okay, well then I need to watch it. Why are all the opinions on my Instagram involving movies that I haven't seen? Out of the big 3 horror franchises, Nightmare on Elm Street has the most potential with the reboot. Here is where you're absolutely right. There are so many directions that they could go with Freddy Krueger, with that type of a character, with his type of power. Oh my god, I would love to see another attempt at a remake or a reboot. A reboot would be really interesting because of course I would love to see Robert Englund again, but it would be kind of a weird dynamic with the fact that he's aged so much. But I feel like there is some room there to play with Freddy aging potentially, except that he's more of a paranormal entity. So that's hard to say, but I mean, like I said, there's just so many directions they could go. Halloween 2018 over Halloween 1978. Ooh, I think I disagree. In terms of entertainment value, I think I might prefer Halloween 2018, but in terms of style and tone, I think I prefer the original. Hereditary didn't live up to the hype. That just depends. We had a whole discussion though about Hereditary last week, so definitely check out part 1 if you haven't. The Mask in Halloween 2018 is better than the one in the original. I actually agree with that. I ranked all of the masks actually a while back, so well, I kind of just spoiled that list a little bit, but I ranked all of them, so go check out my ranking of all of Michael's masks if you haven't. The A Nightmare on Elm Street remake was superior to all of the England nightmares. You're wild for that. You're wild for that. I do think though that if you are a modern human being, if you are a young person right now that was born 20 years after these movies came out, I could honestly understand why you might feel that way. 80s movies have a very particular aesthetic. They're just a lot different to the horror movies we watch and love now. So while I definitely disagree, I can understand where that opinion is coming from. Slashers are better than supernatural movies. No. Nope. The only reason why I have a semi-strong reaction to that opinion is just that in terms of how well movies are made, slashers are usually like bottom tier. I do enjoy them a lot though, they just don't stimulate me very much, so I tend to prefer supernatural movies. Friday the 13th is actually kind of boring. If you're talking about the very first movie, I agree. The third Freddy movie is overrated. Oh, Dream Warriors. Oh, my friends that run the Jump Scared Twitch account, if you haven't watched any of their streams, they're really fun. But my friends Seb and Leanne are gonna be so upset when I say this, but I kind of agree. I think a lot of the death scenes were really gnarly, and I think it covered a lot more topics that were, you know, pretty serious, but I also felt that they weren't really treated with the attention they deserve. They kind of brought up a lot of really big, like, you know, mental health problems and stuff like that, and I just don't think it was really taken seriously enough, and it was kind of just like a, ooh, dark superhero movie, kind of. So the tone of it was a little bit weird to me, but I mean, I get why a lot of people liked it. I think it's still really entertaining. Coming from a huge horror fan, horror movies are overrated. Okay. We also got a lot of people in here that said that they actually enjoyed Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, Godspeed. I will never claim to understand you, but I respect your opinions. Saw 4 is the best Saw movie. Wait, I have to look up. Is VI 4? Because I don't know my Roman numerals. Nope, that's 6. So I've actually only seen the first 4 so far. I haven't seen the 6th one yet, so I'll get back to you. Okay, so the Kylie that's editing this video has seen Saw 6. I don't know about the best because I haven't thought about how I would rank them yet. But Saw 6 was actually really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I fully understand. I thought it was a good movie. Halloween 3 is the best Halloween sequel. I heavily disagree because it's like not even really a sequel. It's also really poorly made. There is so much that's wrong with that movie, but just go watch my review if you want to know what. I'll never understand the hype around the Friday the 13th franchise. Honestly, kind of same, although for the type of fans that that franchise has, I can understand it. Michael would lose a fight against Jason or Freddy and probably Leatherface. You think he would lose against Leatherface? I don't know. I feel like Michael, he's not exactly smart, is he? But he has like this aura of knowing about him. It just seems like he kind of knows what's going on. With Leatherface, that's different because he seems like mentally challenged. He doesn't always seem to be super aware of what's going on, and he's kind of just always in a state of being in distress. He's kind of just lashing out because it's all he's ever known. It's all that his family has ever taught him. So I feel like there's absolutely a way that Michael could outperform Leatherface. I'm afraid of dolls, but Annabelle didn't scare me. That's interesting. Is it because she doesn't ever really move in the movies? Because for me, that's what makes her a little bit more scary, is because she just seems so unpredictable. She never moves, and yet she just seems alive. The Exorcist is overrated. T. Halloween 1978 is the worst Halloween movie. Oh. Out of all, what is it, 12 of the Halloween movies, you think the original is the worst? Eek. Ooh. Directors need to stop making sequels, remakes, etc. and start giving new content. I agree with that partially. I think that there are a select few franchises where more of the story could be explored. In terms of remakes, that also depends because I think that we're kind of in a more golden age of movie making. We have a much better handle on technology than we did when like horror first started being popular. So I think there's absolutely room for a couple more remakes. For example, I would love to see a remake of Halloween 3. Like I mentioned, it was a really poorly made movie, but I think the story is so incredible. I would love to see a remake of it today. I'm really excited to see the Candyman sequel slash, I feel like it's gonna be more of a reboot, but I know it's a sequel. Although I haven't seen the other sequels of Candyman, so I guess I couldn't really say. But that's not to say that there's a lack of originality right now, because if you guys watched the horror Oscars that I released a couple weeks ago, you would know that we nominated a ton of amazing original movies. So I don't think that we're lacking in originality, but I do wish that originality was more valued than just franchises and stuff. Trashy slasher horror is just as important to the genre as artsy horror. That is absolutely facts. I need me a good trashy horror movie every once in a while. That's why I have 2 of the Friday the 13th movies. That's why I love The Haunting of Molly Hartley. That's why I love The Bye Bye Man. I definitely need to make my own list of horror movies that are so bad they're good. House of Wax remake. But yeah, I need to make my own list because yeah, there's a lot of them. Trashy horror is so important important. It's important to have movies where you can just totally feel like, go nuts, you know? Don't limit yourself to the constraints of typical stories. Go crazy, go stupid. I want to see wacky stuff sometimes. There are enough like brilliant masterpiece, think piece type movies out there. I need me some garbage every once in a while. Bride of Chucky is a good movie. Is that not a popular opinion? I thought that was a popular opinion. I think it's a great movie. Scream 1 is better than any Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Elm Street movie. Oh. That is kind of facts. That's kind of facts, honestly. I think it's arguable for the first Halloween, but I mean, I don't know, that's kind of facts. Shitty or well done, I love jump scares to any capacity. Okay, so I love them when they're done well. I also love them when they're done terribly because I think it's hilarious. However, any of that middle ground where they're just like not that scary, that does not work. You have to fully commit to a jump scare. You can't have one that's lukewarm, you know what I mean? So I can't say that I love them in any capacity, but I get you. The Child's Play franchise is massively overrated. Okay, we had this conversation last week. You just mean you didn't like it. Because arguably for what they did, like with animatronics and all of this kind of groundbreaking is what I almost said. Groundbreaking technology that they used to film those movies, they're not overrated. Like, they deserve the praise that they got. It was also such an original killer concept when movies had kind of just been pumping out a lot of the same thing over and over, like with the big 3 franchises. Freddy is more unique, but like Michael and Jason, just 2 kind of indestructible killers, and we got so many movies of them just doing the same thing over and over. Whereas Chucky was just completely a breath of fresh air. So the word you're looking for is definitely not overrated. That was actually all that I wanted to cover for who answered on my Instagram page, so now I'm gonna go back to my community tab and see what's over there, because hopefully we got a couple new answers by now. My all-time favorite horror movie is The Grudge 2020. Seek help. The Cabin in the Woods was such a dumb movie. I don't know how so many people praise it. The ending was so bad. I'm a little bit torn with Cabin in the Woods because I loved almost the entirety of the movie. I thought some of it was kind of just, over the top meta, but for the most part I did enjoy it. I didn't like the ending either. To me, it just felt like they really had no idea how to come to an organic ending with the story that they were telling, so they were like, I'm not gonna spoil it, sorry. The Ring and John Carpenter's The Thing are the most overrated horror movies ever. Nope, you're using the word wrong. And I wish people would stop constantly talking about Halloween. Who still constantly talks about Halloween? I covered that whole franchise leading up to like the month of October, which just makes sense. Unless, I don't know, I guess people that are still talking about it aren't really popping up on my timeline. I, of course, am gonna talk about Halloween Kills when it comes out and do a review for that. But who's still actually talking about, and whatever. My favorite decade of horror is the 70s. I also despise nudity in horror. For me, nudity depends. It just has to be done tastefully. One example that I can think of is Nightmare on Elm Street 4, when there is the scene in that guy's bed, and then his bed turns into water and there's this naked girl kind of swimming around underneath him. That scene is so ethereal and this girl looks so gorgeous, and it's not gratuitous. They're not making it a point to show her boobs and her butt and everything like that. She just literally looks like this ethereal goddess. I thought that was so tasteful. And that's a slasher movie, you know, you don't really expect that kind of tasteful nudity from slashers, but they pulled it off. So it just depends. There's a lot of nudity that I really, really hate in horror because it's just objectifying people that look like me and reducing people like me down to just an object. But it depends. It always depends. Midsommar is terrible. Yeah, you guys. The Exorcist is kind of boring. Yeah, I agree with you. The Saw movies, except for the first one, are trash. I kind of disagree. So far, I've seen the first 4, as I mentioned, and the first one is by far the best out of all of those, but I have enjoyed a couple of the other sequels. I wouldn't say that they're bad. The best horror movies of all time are made in the 2000s. Nowadays, horror movies are a joke. Very, very false. Very false. The early 2000s is some of my favorite horror because I think we have some of the most fun franchises, because I love Final Destination. I think Paranormal Activity is really fun, but I've only seen the first 2 movies. I also love The Ring. I love the stylization of a lot of early 2000s horror, but I don't know. Would I say that's the best? I think it's probably my favorite decade, but I don't know if it's the best. I feel like like in the last couple of years, especially since horror has kind of transcended to more art house movies, I think it's gotten so good lately. I feel like Jordan Peele set in motion a broader appeal to more art house style movies. So now independent films are becoming a lot more popular than they used to. And I love how horror has expanded and evolved and grown. Now I feel like horror can reach so many different types of audiences, whereas before, like in decades prior, it was really only for a very particular subset of society. I think that's going to be the last unpopular opinion that I respond to today. Let me know if you would like me to do this again in the future, because this has been a little bit fun, although I have wanted to fight some people. If you didn't get a chance to share any of your unpopular opinions, definitely leave those below. Also, let me know if you would like to hear all of my unpopular horror opinions. I've been spending it's been almost a year now of me trying to cultivate all of my unpopular horror opinions. I don't feel like I have too many. But if you want to hear what mine are, then by all means I will make that video. But if you'd like to see even more content from me, I am currently covering the Scream franchise right now, as well as Harry Potter. I've also covered Halloween, Child's Play, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've covered all of those on my channel as well. I also have a vlog channel where I make relaxing daily vlogs and things like that. And I also just do like get ready with me little chit chats, and I just talk about literally anything that's on my mind. I also have a Patreon with even more bonus content. I have some of my reactions on Patreon. I do some other fun stuff on there, like I did a horror would you rather game. So yeah, if you want to check out all the rest of my content, everything will be linked down below. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye!